treat AI integration as workforce transformation. And it's not a tech project. It's actually, as you know well, it's a change management project. There's a difference between AI skills and AI talent, and firms definitely need both. There's the skills impact and the job impacts. And I won't ignore the fact that there's a large dialogue obviously going on about the impact on jobs and workforce and potential redundancies and such. Say there are challenges for employers around skills inequality and uneven access. And when you're looking at your own, AI upskilling strategy, there is currently a lot more senior managers are receiving upskilling than junior managers. With employees too, trust is a large piece of this. And if a lot of the external dialogue is about how AI is coming to take your jobs, you're naturally not going to have much trust in learning about AI and specifically giving AI information that then maybe you think will be used to replace you because it knows everything about your job. So what's the point in you being there?
Welcome to the AI Adoption Podcast. I'm your host, Professor Ashley Braganza, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome today Olivia Larkin from the City of London Corporation. Olivia, welcome to the AI Adoption Podcast. Before we get started, could I ask you to introduce yourself and the City of London Corporation, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Ashley. It's great to be on this podcast. And you've had such interesting guests already, so I'm very pleased to be part of that cohort. So I am the head of skills and workforce policy at the City of London Corporation. And so we focus on skills gaps and workforce issues facing the financial and professional services sector in particular across the UK. So we don't just focus on the city in London. We really look at, the challenges the sector's facing across the country. Our remit sort of includes skills shortages, workforce risks, regulatory skills interactions across the sort of, we call financial and professional services, FPS, labour market. We sort of focus on, when we think about skills and workforce, we try to champion modular, rapid upskilling, encouraging businesses to invest in the upskilling and or reskilling of their employees. We advocate for reformed growth and skills levy that allows that sort of modular upskilling. And obviously, as AI is a big topic in talent and skills, that is a big area that we look into quite a bit at the City of London Corporation. We've done a few different works in this area, including a joint report with KPMG about 18 months ago that looked at the £35 billion potential uplift that AI could bring to the sector in particular, including a 50% productivity boost. We've explored projects like synthetic data marketplaces. We're running a task force called the Women Pivoting to Digital Task Force, encouraging more women to pivot from from non-technical backgrounds to digital roles, and businesses to hire and redeploy women into digital roles, and generally ensuring responsible AI adoption and deployment.
Wow, that's a big remit. That's a very large set of actions and activities. Let's see if we can explore these in a little more detail, Olivia, and thank you for that introduction. I guess coming down to, what does the City of London Corporation do in terms of skills, workforce policy and AI in the financial and professional services sectors? Give us a little more detail, please.
Sure. So we often work at the intersection with industry, government, and other third sector organizations, trade associations, and others to encourage more collaborative working to solve some of the challenges that the sector is facing. And as I mentioned, AI is one of these, but we focus on other topic areas, including green skills, including challenges around international talent, which is an interesting context within the past couple of years in particular, and any other issues that are raised as skills or talent issues by the sector. We work really closely with the Financial Services Skills Commission that we helped found back in 2020. And for example, some of the work that they do, they identify the key skills gaps in the financial services sector. And so they've identified 13 key skills that include a combination of typically what was called sort of hard skills, which are predominantly today tech skills, and what was originally called soft skills, but now has many names, including fusion skills, transferable skills, power skills, I heard the other day, which is, I think, a great term for it. But those sort of core underlying skills that are identified by employers in the financial services sector that are missing from the sector currently. And then we encourage, as I said, we encourage collaboration. So we want businesses to invest in the upskilling and reskilling of their existing employees. We want them to create positive pipelines of talent, whether that's into the sector and up through the sector. We want to encourage diversity and inclusion through the sector to get the widest amount of background, resource, and expertise in the sector. And then when it comes specifically to AI, we look at what firms are doing. We try to share best practice across different firms, across government, advocate for government activity within encouraging businesses to adopt the right practices when it comes to AI skills and workforce strategy. We know that, studies show that 83% of leaders expect to reskill over a quarter of their workforce. So this isn't something that we're not doing a huge amount of work to convince businesses that this needs to be done. But in terms of how it can be done and what they need to consider when they're doing it, that's the kind of work that we help to hopefully share resources around.
And in the context of AI, which you mentioned, are there specific skills that companies in the financial and professional services sectors are looking for?
Mhm. It's a good question, and I would say it probably doesn't differ massively across industries. But what I would say that there's a difference between AI skills and AI talent, and firms definitely need both. When it comes to the skills themselves, they need both the sort of hard domain technical skills as well as those sort of soft skills, fusion skills, human skills that I was talking about. So when it comes to the technical and domain skills, we know that AI is one of the most scarce skill sets, tech skill sets that's out there, and has a significant wage premium as well. So these skills are, they're data science, machine learning, engineering, model risk management, AI assurance and governance, cybersecurity and AI-specific security controls, a deep understanding of agentic AI as that's on the rise, and other things like AI insurance, interpretability, vendor risk evaluation, model transparency. So some of those more deeper technical skills. But what's possibly more widespread in terms of what's needed is these human fusion skills. So including critical thinking, judgment, ethics, creative thinking, collaboration, communication, stakeholder influence, ethics, and analytical reasoning. And creativity is one that comes up quite a lot. And I've heard a few AI experts say the most important AI skill is creativity, which is really interesting. It's not the hard technical skills, it's how to use the AI. While there will be and there needs to be that deep technical expertise when it comes to AI, and there needs to be, as I said, the AI talent within an organization. What's more widespread is the ability to use AI, which requires more of these human skills that I just listed. And so firms are increasingly sort of seeing that they're combining these human skills with these technical skills. But what we're hearing from some of our stakeholders is that it's easier to train their staff in the technical skills than it is in these human skills. And they are experiencing some frustrations in training in these human skills. And so those are potentially, the skill premium of the future. And talking about, career longevity in the age of AI transformation, maybe it's leaning into those, human skills a little bit more. And thinking about how to not necessarily have the skills that come up against AI, but that complement AI rather than competing against it.
I'm really interested in this difference that you've just pulled apart, which is around looking at AI skills versus AI talent.
Mm-hmm.
Just explain how you see those being different. What's the difference between the AI skills and the AI talent, please?
So I guess to put it simply, I would say that AI talent it's a narrow but deep pool of talent. So you need less or fewer AI professionals than you need a workforce with AI skills. So you do need professionals who understand the technology, can innovate with the technology, can build new technology, can augment the technology as it goes on to build agents that are specific to your firms. And they require the sort of deep technical understanding. But then when it comes to AI skills, I would argue that everyone within an organization, if they don't have the AI skills, or if they don't need the AI skills now, they will need them within the next 5 years because it's so widespread. And as agentic AI is on the rise and other, tools and programs are coming out, there are more and more uses for AI across organizations, and particularly in the financial and professional services sector, that everyone's going to be using some form of AI. And so everyone needs to be upskilled. And I would say that that needs to happen now. Don't wait until, you've got the technology that has a specific use case for a specific team or a specific function within your organization. Upskill everyone within your organization now. And this upskilling needs to keep happening on a continuous basis. It doesn't ever stop. We know that there are studies that show that, the half-life of skills used to be 10 years. A few years ago, it came to 5 years. It's now less than 2 years. You need to be updating skills on a regular basis, especially as the technology is updating. So build those foundational AI skills now, the skills to use and interact with AI products and agents, and then continue investing on it. It's not a check mark and it's done. It needs to be embedded in your organization as an ongoing process.
Great. Thank you for explaining that difference. What are some of the challenges and risks that you think companies and employees are facing? Maybe we take these one at a time. Let's talk about the risks and the challenges that companies are facing with AI.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the biggest risk I would say, and I will admit I've got a bias, I work in skills and talent. So I'm going to say the biggest AI risk is not investing in AI upskilling. There are studies that show that in the UK, only about 1 in 5 employees are currently receiving AI training. So this is, some of the needs around AI upskilling are not dissimilar to general upskilling. So when we talk with firms, we hear that some of the biggest challenges in their investment to upskilling their workforce is time and resource. And that's absolutely fair. We don't have, a one-size-fits-all answer to that. Employees need the time and the organizations need the resources to deploy upskilling. But when it comes in particular to AI, there are really interesting ways to upskill that can be quite more easily ingrained into day-to-day activities. They can be a bit more experimental. As I mentioned, we did a piece of work on exploring synthetic data marketplaces, and those are great for experimenting with AI, and that can make upskilling a bit more playful. Rather than a click-through program where you need to learn about fire door safety to check that off. How can you make upskilling in AI a little bit more playful and interesting? And I think in terms of that sort of risk, that key risk I was talking about, there's the skills impact and the job impacts. And I won't ignore the fact that there's a large dialogue obviously going on about the impact on jobs and workforce and potential redundancies and such. And that has been a major dialogue for 2+ years now. And it is interesting to see, it feels like each week some really intelligent, whether it's, a policymaker, an AI professional, a business leader is coming out saying, the whole workforce is going to transform and, we're going to see massive unemployment. And then someone else the next week comes out saying, we are absolutely not. We've done a study and there won't be unemployment. It'll be disruption, but not unemployment. And it's hard to understand which both have very valid points, I think, and both are absolutely true. There are specific tasks and roles that are more exposed to AI that require more, routine cognitive tasks and data-intensive roles. But, roles that are customer facing are a lot less likely to be impacted by AI. And we know that there's a growing focus on the impact on entry-level talent and hiring. And that is hugely important. Obviously, a lot of these routine and maybe data-intensive tasks were done by entry-level talent, and it's a way into the industry, and you learn, the basics. You do a lot of data entry and computer work, and then that's how you work your way up. So with less entry-level talent, obviously there becomes a pipeline issue. And with also facing massive redundancies too, and getting rid of, swathes of great talent and great teams, that's a short-term thinking issue too. And I think some businesses, that are doing massive redundancies and reducing the numbers of their entry-level talent are unfortunately thinking quite short-term. That is what makes the most sense right now. But even in the next year, 2 years, 5 years, that's going to be a major problem for them. And what we are trying to do is we're really trying to focus on reskilling employees. So rather than redundancy, reskill existing employees, particularly into some of these emerging roles in digital and AI. And there's huge potential there. And there are great case studies of organizations who've done this, taken employees from quite a different background and a non-technical background, invested in their upskilling journey and redeployed them. And there's research by the Financial Services Skills Commission that shows that you can save an average of 49,000 per employee that you reskill and redeploy versus redundancy and potential rehiring. I would also say there are challenges for employers around skills inequality and uneven access. And when you're looking at your own, AI upskilling strategy, there is currently a lot more senior managers are receiving upskilling than junior managers. So I think it's over 85% of executives are using and receiving training on Gen AI versus only over 50% of non-managers. And this risks widening socioeconomic divides if the training is uneven. And there's a great piece of research that an organization that we also co-founded and still work closely together with, Progress Together, released last year about the impact, the potential unequal impact of AI on socioeconomic divides within the financial services sector. And then other challenges businesses face are related to, cultural and organizational barriers. So, this is really the AI transformation is change management, and it needs to be managed in that way by a business. And there will be challenges that come across, whether it's specific to your organization, specific to your subsector, your industry, and there needs to be a much wider strategy on achieving that, and sort of ensuring literacy and competency throughout an organization.
I mean, that's a really great set of insights there, because those risks, those challenges at one level are not insurmountable. But if organizations don't come into AI adoption or thinking about some of those challenges when they put their plans together, you can begin to see why kind of the diffusion of AI is really very slow in terms of penetrating into the operations of organizations. What about some of the risks and challenges then for employees? What are your thoughts on employees?
Well, I'm glad that you're asking about that too, because I think that needs to be considered and isn't necessarily top of mind for a lot of organizations. So, as I said before, time is a huge challenge, finding the time. I can absolutely admit that I have great intentions of learning so much more on AI and doing a lot more sort of independent training, but it's on my to-do list and I put it on every Friday and I move it to the following Friday and I move it to the following Friday, and it's terrible, but I just don't always have the time. And whether that's from an employee side or an employer side, time does need to be sort of carved out. It's great when an employer can sort of have protected time for upskilling, and we've got great organizations within FPS that do that. I think there's, I can't remember which organization, it might be Lloyd's Banking Group, that has time called DEAL, Drop Everything and Learn. And it is fully protected time for upskilling, and it doesn't have to be, and they're quite non-prescriptive about it. Employees can identify what sort of they want to upskill themselves on. But that protected time is huge. With employees too, trust is a large piece of this. And if a lot of the external dialogue is about how AI is coming to take your jobs, you're naturally not going to have much trust in learning about AI, and specifically giving AI information that then maybe you think will be used to replace you because it knows everything about your job. So what's the point in you being there? So an organization needs to invest in creating that trust and sort of saying, just if you use AI and teach it about your job, we're not going to use that to replace you, but it's going to help you do your job more efficiently and give you more time to do something else as well. And I think that's key too about, how are you using that extra time? Can you take on more customers because you've got more free time because AI is taking up some of your tasks? That's a great way to incorporate AI versus saying, oh, great, we've saved 30% time, let's cut 30% of our team. You'll actually make more profits if you get 30% more customers than cutting 30% of your team. And then generally, I think, there are other psychological and behavioral challenges that employees will face when trying to adopt this. And there's change fatigue, there's risk aversion. We think about employees who've been within the same organization and potentially, similar operation for many, many years and are now saying, everything's changing and you need to start using this. There might be some resistance there, which is completely to be expected and fine. But organizations need to think about how they're going to communicate the strategy and again, tell them why it's good for the employee themselves. They need to hear that from the top. They can't be figuring out that themselves.
Great. As a professor of change management and organizational transformation, I can't agree with you more. Um, what are some of the major regulatory challenges then that companies in the professional and financial services face?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the financial and professional services sector is a highly regulated sector. So it is something that is a challenge that organizations face in the sector. We've seen studies that say that only 9% of financial services executives believe that their firms are prepared for upcoming AI regulation, and 14% admit that they don't have any framework for managing AI-related regulatory risks. And I'm glad they're being so honest. But it's a challenge that organizations are facing. We're actually speaking to stakeholders on this now with a particular angle of how regulatory uncertainty is potentially relating to lack of AI uptake and lack of investment in AI skills. And so we're hearing a few things that I can highlight now, but stay tuned for later this year for a bit more info on that. But regulatory uncertainty often comes out on top. So a lack of clarity on, applying existing regulation into AI. So, old rules to new tech is sometimes what we're hearing. So things like how does the consumer duty and the senior manager's certification regime, operational resilience, GDPR, how does that all relate to AI? Um, and it creates sort of gray areas for employers. Particularly when it comes to GDPR, things like right to erasure versus model retraining. So if you have to erase data, personal data, then what does that mean for training AI models in your particular, anonymous customer data? There's a bit of a tension between model training requirements and data protection obligations. There's challenges around fragmented global regulatory approaches. We've released a report recently at the City of London Corporation that maps how leading jurisdictions are approaching AI in financial services. And it highlights that there is global alignment on high-level AI principles, so that's good news, and principles that follow the OECD AI principles. But divergence occurs when national authorities operationalize AI with different approaches to the regulation. So again, it's that sort of lack of clarity there. So whereas the UK is quite principles based and it's flexible and it's arguably potentially more pro-innovation, the EU AI Act, people are saying, so we're hearing from our stakeholders, feels more prescriptive and it's risk tiered and it's documentation heavy. So cross-border firms must comply with both, which is a challenge and obviously has an impact on innovation and creates friction and cost and potential delays. Only 5% of firms say that they consider a lack of alignment between UK and international regulation to be a constraint. But if you think about it, a UK asset manager offering an AI tool to an EU client must meet EU AI Act obligations, even if it's built in the UK. So there is just that, lack of clarity and potential fragmentation there. And we know that a high regulatory burden can impact innovation and experimentation. And so there needs to be, risk frameworks and approval processes, but that doesn't, stymie innovation. And as I said too, it can potentially risk deprioritizing upskilling. So where the upskilling doesn't help the company meet a regulatory requirement, then maybe they'll be less incentivized to invest in that upskilling.
Olivia, to what extent does AI pose risks to the future of London, particularly given London's reliance on the financial and professional sectors?
It's a good question. And I think if managed well, AI is net positive for the financial and professional services sector and London. But if it's left unmanaged, of course it will pose risks. And so our report that I mentioned earlier with KPMG in 2024 said that firms can realize 12% productivity in just 1 year and up to 50% productivity increases over 5 years, which strengthens competitiveness, customer services, and growth across the square mile and the UK. But we know that recent reports from McKinsey and MIT talk about how many firms are stuck in the pilot phase of AI. So if unmanaged, I would say there are a few key risks. And then I'll talk about, positive management. So some of the key risks is, productivity without redeployment. So as I was talking about, focusing on redeploying your employees rather than boosting productivity, cutting that 30%, getting rid of them and saying, great, we've now boosted productivity. Some of our work with the Women Pivoting to Digital Task Force is touching on this as well. Where we're encouraging more businesses to reskill women, as we know that women are more likely to be facing redundancy due to AI and automation, and reskill them into digital roles, because we know that there isn't enough, there's studies that show there isn't enough talent to showcase, to fill those digital talent roles currently. And also opening up the hiring pathways to consider talent from different backgrounds, non-technical backgrounds, who've either gone through their own reskilling journey or can be hired and then reskilled internally. The talent pipeline risk that I was talking about, not hiring much fewer entry-level talent will create a pipeline issue in the long run. The two-tier workforce, so the lack of evenness when it's who's being upskilled in AI. The potential concentration risk, there's a handful of major AI vendors, and that poses a risk, sort of competition and concentration risk. And, potential operational resilience risks. So AI errors in advanced machine learning, credit scoring, fraud detection, other potential operational issues. But with the right governance from business and government, AI is a net positive, and we know that. It can lead to productivity increases that I talked about, better customer experience, faster compliance, new hyper-personalized financial products, and potentially also strong regional job access through remote working and AI-enabled operations. The London mayor, recently announced a London task force on AI and the future of work, and I think that's really exciting. He talked about how, if unmanaged, AI will have negative impacts on the workforce, and that isn't the right thing. And businesses absolutely can and should be doing things on their own sort of business levels, but it does require government to come in and coordinate and collaborate on this. So he's also announced free AI training from City Hall, which I think is really positive. And the IMF also last week was talking about urging governments to support workers who are being displaced to AI. So this is all moving in a positive direction, I would say. And, Sadiq Khan is right. We can't sit back. If we're seeing businesses suffering from that sort of short-term vision of, job cuts and reducing entry-level talent hires, then government needs to step in and bring those organizations together, invest in, what are the new pathways for entry-level talent, how to, work with employers to keep employees and redeploy employees versus, massive redundancies. So I was really pleased to see that.
Yeah. And can you see some examples, or are there examples from London or even other regions that you are aware of that illustrate where organizations have had a really good AI strategy, where they've actually demonstrated good governance and leadership and actually implemented some of the changes that you've been talking about?
Yeah, there are some great examples that we're hearing from some of our stakeholders. I'll also mention that we're supporting the Financial Services Skills Commission in the creation of a Treasury announced Financial Services Skills Compact that was announced at Mansion House dinner in July, and some associated research on the impact of AI and other disruptive technologies on the financial services workforce. And it's really interesting what we're hearing through this research and the development of this compact so far about what firms are and aren't doing, what their fears are. As I said, it sounds like a lot of the conversations they can be in the two camps of, this is really exciting and positive, net positive for the future. And then there'll be the next conversation of saying, we're facing something that we've never faced before at a scale we've never seen before. And we should all be quite worried about this. And so through some of this research, we're hearing great case studies and such. So we're speaking with organizations like HSBC, which I know has done some really interesting work in incorporating AI into their anti-money laundering activities. I think they've been working with Google Cloud on that. They've also been investing in sort of organizational restructuring in what sounds like a very positive way. And they've been reporting on efficiency gains that they've seen from AI. Lloyds Banking Group is a great sort of contact and stakeholder of ours, and they are a fantastic organization that continues to champion upskilling, reskilling in many different ways. And they have been incorporating AI into some of their sort of mortgage underwriting, into fraud detection, cybersecurity as well. They've got great leadership commitment, and so that sort of top-down leadership. Uses of, as simple as talking about their uses of Copilot to sort of trickle down through the organization. And they partnered with a US organization as well, AI to use AI to support with fraud detection. Uh, Barclays also was sort of shared publicly its case studies with Copilot and how it's been enhancing global productivity. So I think it's really positive to see that some organizations are sharing case studies and sharing what's working because it's a benefit to everyone, And I've always found that in the skills and talent space, organizations are quite open to sharing what's working and what isn't. And it's great to see that transpiring into the AI space and sharing, their use cases of what's working and what isn't.
Great. Thank you for those examples. I think it really brings things to life when you see it happening in practice. I'm going to ask you to look into a crystal ball and just take a look forward. What pointers would you give businesses to ensure that when they're adopting AI, it really has a positive impact, not just on the business, not just on their own business, but also on London and as the city that we know?
Tough question to narrow it down, and I don't have the golden bullet, but there are a few things that I would say we're hearing from, some of these case studies and other researchers out there that do seem to be, helping businesses in the right direction. So, as I said before, treat AI integration as workforce transformation. And it's not a tech project. It's actually, as you know well, it's a change management project. It's transforming your workforce, have an organizational wide strategy, and allocate resources accordingly. And you have to make sure that that's also adaptive as it goes along because the new technology will emerge, new organizational challenges will emerge. And so that organizational strategy needs to be constant, it needs to be long-term and adaptive. Really embed AI upskilling and learning at scale. So set a goal for baseline literacy for all of your workforce. Give role-specific training where appropriate. Protect learning time and investigate if there are incentive structures for your employees. Potentially using the new flexibilities introduced by the new growth and skills levy could tap into some of this modular learning that's required and consider synthetic data sandboxes as well. Of course, ensure responsible AI. So audit for bias, ensure that there are always humans within every single AI loop that you've got. Make explainability standards really clear and really secure and ethical data governance. As I talked about, focusing on redeployment, not reduction and redundancy, I think that's absolutely key. How can you use the existing staff with excellent, internal organizational expertise without losing this great sort of talent workforce that you've got? Strengthen some of these public-private partnerships. Governments are announcing some of these new initiatives. Get on board. There are a great number of task forces, this London one most recently, but some more central government task forces that are focusing on AI and AI skills. Tap into that, tap into other networks. And, London really could be a global hub for trusted AI in financial and professional services, combining, the city's regulatory reputation, legal innovation, talent density, and financial markets. It could be, a reference point for AI assurance, responsible use, and excellent talent. And that is if it's, adopted, managed, and continued to be monitored well. And also, I will say, when the Financial Services Skills Compact comes out later this year, join on board. That AI will be a huge piece of that. The first part of the research will come out in May, and I think that will be hugely interesting for the sector to get to share those insights. And the compact will help organizations sort of make some of those pledges to ensure they are investing in the skills of their workforce and they are adopting AI in a way that is positive for their workforce and for the skills.
Great. Well, what a positive note to end on, and I've been wanting to focus on at least one interview on London. And I have to say, I wanted that because London is my favorite city. I'm very proud to call it home. And it's great to have you on the AI Adoption podcast, Olivia, just to talk about London and how important London is as a financial professional services hub, how important London is and can be, I think, to AI and AI adoption, not just as setting a standard for the UK, but I think setting a standard, a global standard, as you've said. And I'm really pleased that we've had a chance and an opportunity to focus specifically on London. Thank you for all your insights. Thank you for sharing the examples that you've done, and for bringing together really some critical messages around change management and the importance of change management and transformation as part of any AI adoption. Olivia, thank you so much for joining us on the AI Adoption Podcast.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.